So, a lot of times image is it's a subconscious thing. We don't necessarily know that we are judging people when we're judging them, but it happens.
Hello Sales Nation, I am Will Barron, host of the Salesman Podcast, and welcome to today's episode. Today's guest is Marino, and we're talking suits, we're talking shoes, watches, and a whole lot more, and how some of these external things can lead to more confidence for both you and I, Sales Nation. So you can find out more about Aaron over at iamalpham.com. You can find him on YouTube by searching Alpha M. He's got 1.5 million subscribers. He's doing super well over there, and it's really, as a content creator, it's inspirational to have had this chat with him, to see that he's just a normal person. And for any of you guys in Sales Nation who want to create content to reach your audience and to sell to them, Aaron has some advice at the end of the show, which I thought was really interesting, in how he considers himself as a salesperson. I thought that was a really interesting twist, which I wasn't expecting. So listen to the end of the show for that. And with all that said, without further ado, let's jump into today's episode. Hey Aaron, and welcome to the Salesman Podcast.
Will, it is an absolute pleasure to be here. I can't wait to get started.
Good man. I'm excited to have you on the show. I want to talk about suits, shoes, swag, confidence. There's going to be all kinds of rabbit holes that we'll potentially go down today. And where I want to start the show is with perhaps a leading question, and I think it's a leading question, but I'm keen to get your insights on it. In that, in the business world, you go into a business meeting, perhaps you've ironed your shirt, of course, but perhaps it doesn't fit quite as well as perhaps what it could do. Your jacket's a bit baggy, you've rushed out the house, so you've got, I know this is a huge no-no, but a black belt and brown shoes on. Yeah, you probably need a bit of a haircut, but you look presentable, but not refined. Do you think that when you're sat opposite someone in a sales meeting or business meeting, and perhaps they're not sat opposite you, the style guru, but they're sat behind a quote-unquote average person who has a little bit of interest in some of this, do you think that difference between going out and being, so looking, and being and taking that step up and looking really smart, do you think that makes a difference in the world of business and in these kind of interactions?
I'll say this: you can't afford to take the chance of not putting your best foot forward. The reality is that it is getting increasingly competitive out there, and you need every advantage over your competition you can possibly get. And so a lot of times you go in for a job, you go in for a sale, a meeting, and on paper, you and your competition are going to look very similar. You both have schooling, you're both educated, you both have experience, but the person who's going to get the job is the person who put the little bit of extra time into making sure that the person in the packaging that he's presenting is on it. He has paid attention, and he's done it to make a point that he is put together, he is professional, and he spent the time and energy to make sure that is coming across.
And do you think this happens on a conscious level or on a subconscious level? And again, we're talking about someone who isn't scruffy, they're presentable, but then someone who has made the effort. Is it noticeable to look at when someone's just sat there, or is it happening deep down within you?
A lot of times image is it's a subconscious thing. We don't necessarily know that we are judging people when we're judging them, but it happens. And simple things like if you're wearing too much of a powerful fragrance, if you never know and you don't want to take the chance and risk potentially offending somebody. And so with interviews, I always say less is more. You want to look great. You don't want to look too fashion forward, too stylish, too over the top. Take it easy with cologne. But in terms of packaging yourself, you just need to make sure that all the little pieces are put together. And when you do that, somebody can't necessarily look at you and say, it is because of X, Y, and Z. They look at you and just see a well-groomed, well-styled package sitting in front of them, and you are 99% of the time going to get the job, the sale, the girl, before your competition who is showing up disheveled or who looks like they haven't put much time or energy into their appearance.
And this isn't an angle that I was planning on talking about, but I think it's relevant and it's just come to me now. But all of this affects you from your perspective as well, because surely when you're dressed smart and you're feeling good and you've got that bit of swag going, that increases your confidence, whether it's slightly fake or manufactured because of that. And I guess it doesn't really matter as long as it comes across authentic, right?
Oh, absolutely. What happens when you put on a well-tailored suit or shirt? You stand up a little taller. When your shoes are polished, you feel better, and it's almost like developing confidence from the outside in. And so, yeah, however it ends up happening, it makes a difference, and it comes across in the way that you interact with others.
For sure. So most of the audience in the B2B world, they were in suits day to day. And this is my life in the world of medical device sales before getting and jumping into the show. Let me talk you through how I would buy a suit. To, again, add context to the audience. And some of them, there might be some glaringly obvious mistakes that I'm making here. And hopefully there'll be things to pick up on. But I would go to, and there's a store in Leeds here in the UK that I go to. It's not a designer store, but it's not a big box suit store either. They've got tailors like in-house and they do all the alterations and stuff. So I would go in, I'd have a rough idea in my mind of perhaps the color, and I generally wear like a dark navy, like blue suit, brown shoes, brown belt, that kind of thing. I would go in, I would get measured up, they would point out a couple of suits, and we're talking between say £200 to £400, so a bit more when you convert that to dollars. And I would essentially try it on with shoes and a shirt, and if it looked okay, not all of them that I've bought have looked like incredible off the bat, but then I'd essentially buy it, give it them, they make some alterations, and I'd generally be happy coming out the other side. Is that how us blokes should be buying suits, or is there more? Because clearly you can go way crazy deep into all of this. Is that for the average, perhaps, salesperson the best way to go about it?
It really is. Department stores are a great resource. You can go in, you can find suits that are close. All right. The reality is that nothing off the rack is going to fit anybody perfectly. Some of the most common adjustments are going to be the pants are going to need to be hemmed. One of the beautiful things about suit separates is that you're able to actually combine and the pants already have a hem. But a lot of times that's not right. The length of your pant is key and critical to those pants looking and fitting right. Another alteration.
Let's just stop on there. How do you know whether your pants are fitting or not?
Well, fitting in terms of length, you should not have the pant leg touching the heel of your shoe. It also shouldn't be showing sock when you're standing.
Cool.
Other than that, there's a window. It's basically the heel or the leather upper of your heel that you can fall anywhere in there. Half a break, full break. A lot of times the full break is getting on the long side. And when you have more fabric around your ankle, it makes you look shorter. It makes you look less ultimately appealing. Another thing, if you're a shorter gentleman, that is a very easy fix, is a lot of guys will go in and just have their pants cropped or shortened. Well, what happens is they haven't adjusted the proportion of the leg. And so what you can do is actually have the pant leg tailored and tapered so that it does give you a better fit, a better look, and a better silhouette overall. Off the rack, also sleeve length is another quick, easy alteration for somebody to do in order to make the suit appear a little bit more luxurious and higher end. Having about a half an inch of cuff showing from that jacket sleeve. The body of the jacket, a lot of times, it's going to require a little bit of tailoring, tapering in the back in order to bring it in slightly so there's a slight pull on the button so that it looks off the rack like it was built for you.
And are the suits designed to be tailored when they're on the rack and that's why they don't fit anyone? Or is it just that everyone's so different and a suit has to be that tailored to make you look good that, by chance that you're never going to get one that fits off the shelf?
No, the reason why is because, for the most part, it's just a function of profitability. If they make suits that appeal to the most amount of men, don't worry about the specific proportions. We get it close enough. And we as men have been conditioned to accept a poor fitting suit. There are some suit brands that do come a little bit more tailored. If you're a slim guy, it's critical that you tailor that suit. Suit supply, I don't know if you have any over where you are, but there are different brands that do have a more tailored look. Now, if you want to take that level up a notch, you can go semi-custom or you can go bespoke. Bespoke is where you go in, you are a blank canvas, and they build you a suit from scratch. And it literally is built for you. The issue with that is that you're going to spend about 3 times as much as you would, sometimes 4 times, depending on where, buying from a department store or off the rack. The other issue is that it's not a simple process. Bespoke suiting is an art form. It requires you to go back for multiple suits or multiple fittings in order to nail it down and get that suit to fit properly and perfectly. So if time is an issue, that's definitely not a great option. Another, and the third and final option, is going online. And if you have garments that fit you, or you have a suit that fits you well, you can, with the internet, it's really made it very, you can get that custom look and fit for basically off the rack clothing prices. And so you just need to do a little extra work. You need a tape measure. And even then you may need some tweaks once you get the garment, and the alterations aren't all that expensive.
And there probably isn't a blanket answer to this, Aaron, but considering, again, our audience and myself, that a decent fitting suit, if you're looking smart, it could win you business, there's commissions there. Is it worth paying that extra, or is there a diminishing returns the more and more that you pay for your suit?
It really depends on, I always base something on a per cost wear. So if you wear the suit and it's a good suit, it fits you well, it's classic. Now, some of the things that men have fallen into the trap of is going with trends as opposed to sticking with classically cut garments. So they might have 3 buttons, or they might have really thin lapels, or really wide lapels, or really bold patterns. A smart investment is getting a versatile wardrobe, and that includes the basic suit colors. Once you go with your basic suit colors, being navy, charcoal, maybe a lighter gray, a tan, at that point, once you have your basics covered, you may want to go a little bit outside of the box and maybe do a thin pinstripe. Black suits, I don't recommend ever for anybody because navy or a dark charcoal would be perfect and acceptable and a lot more versatile than a black suit.
I always think the black suits look a bit schoolboyish, and then, because I've never had one, but I've had colleagues who've had them, and they seem to just be dirty constantly. I guess the black shows up filth a bit easier.
Yeah, and they're just, I say if you're going to do black anything, it's going to be a tuxedo. So your suit, I think you can do better.
Awesome stuff. I'm learning loads. This is awesome. Next, shirts. Is this a similar kind of process? And again, I'll just tell you what I do to add context to it all. TM Lowens, I don't know if you get TM Lowens over your way, but they do shirts that are essentially off the shelf, but arm length, fit as in like slim, skinny, whatever. And because I'm skinny as anything, I go for the skinny one, just so it's not bellowing out of my top of my trousers. And then they go arm length as well. Is that the best way to go about buying a shirt? Or, because I guess a shirt is cheaper to have bespoke made for you than a full suit. Is it worth investing in a good shirt?
You're asking me? Yes, it is. It is worth investing in a few better shirts. I am a big fan of online shirt custom making and buying, because it is just as expensive, if not cheaper, depending on where you go and the fabric you choose, than buying off the rack. The trick, once again, is getting those measurements and developing your profile. But, off the rack. And
who would you recommend for that?
I really like, there are a few. There's a company called Tailor Store that does a great job. Modern Tailor is another option. Even Indochino is a reputable place to get custom shirts made. So you've got lots of options. And one of the things I like about Tailor Store specifically is that as you change everything, it changes on the screen. And they made it really mobile friendly. Once you dial in your profile, then it's just a function of, hey, I need a new white shirt. Boop, you just pick your options in terms of your collar, your buttons, your cuff, and you place the order, and it fits you exactly like the last one that you bought. And that's I'm big into just ease, simplicity, and taking the guesswork and the time out of shopping. And for me,
so if you had a big meeting coming up, for example, you going on Shark Tank and all that, is this the process you would go through personally, or would you go a different route?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For Shark Tank, both times that I was on, I mean, there was a lot of thought put into what I was wearing. And
well, take us through that just a little bit, because that might sum up some of the psychology behind what we're talking about today.
Yeah, this last time I was in, okay, so I've been on Shark Tank twice. The first time I wanted to look like the cover of my DVD that I was selling. So I was in the gray suit, the white shirt, the black tie. It was stylish and it looked good. The second time, I'm a little bit older, I'm a little bit more refined and mature, and I wanted to give a more casual and laid back appearance. And so I took the tie off, but I wanted to go navy. I decided that I was going to wear a really rich navy suit because navy, you can't go wrong. It looks great on pretty much anybody. And it also just commands respect and trust. And so I did that, but I wanted to play around and have a little bit more fun with my shoes. So I went with a nice double monk strap, and I went without a tie, simple, clean white shirt, and a white pocket square. And I looked dynamite. I felt really confident. And there's something about putting on new clothing that fits you really well, that you love, that just does enhance your confidence, and you stand up stronger and straighter and have more of a presence. And so that's how that went.
And I'm intrigued. Was your shirt brand new, as in you never worn it before, other than that day, perhaps other than trying it on? Because I know, and this is going down a totally different rabbit hole than I imagined, but once I've worn a shirt a couple of times, it's never white. We don't need to dive into how to wash clothes. Yeah. But what I'm getting at is, for a big meeting, would you buy a new shirt for that meeting?
Yes, I would. I think it's a good investment, unless it's only been worn a few times. But literally, if it's a white shirt, your body's natural oils and the laundering process, it starts to discolor a bit. And so the more you dry clean, the more that fabric erodes, the higher the chance of it looking just a bit old and worn. And so I say, dress shirts, you should always have. In my closet, I literally have 8 white dress shirts, the same brand, the same kind. They're exactly identical. Once it starts to look a little bit worn, it goes in the trash or actually gets donated to charity, and I just start popping out another white shirt.
Nice. I'm visualizing your wardrobe now.
It's all white shirts.
Okay, so we've got the suit. I think we've got that nailed. We've got the shirt nailed. Let's move on to some of the accessories. I guess a belt and shoes are perhaps the things I personally not... Well, I'm coming on to watches in a minute. Okay. Because you've got the watch that I quite fancy. And I've noticed that in other videos. Belt and shoes. How is there a massive discrepancy between say £100, $100 pair of shoes and a $200 or $300 pair of shoes? Because I will spend a bit more on shoes, and I notice the difference and I appreciate it. And when I see another bloke who has highly polished and well looked after and reasonably expensive nice shoes, I for whatever reason I notice it. Shoes and cars and Omega and Rolexes is what I enjoy. Is this common, or would most people just not even give that a second thought?
Oh, everybody notices. Well, maybe not everybody, but no, there is a big difference. So here's how it works. And I will use dollars just because it's sure, what I get, it's what I use. So there is a big difference in quality, and quality jump from basically under $100 to then 100 to 200. From the 200 to 400, there's another quality jump. After 400, it's really just, it's all just about branding at that point. But yes, there are quality jumps at the different price points. And people notice shoes. And if you're wearing a pair that is stylish, maybe a stylish pair of nice, rich brown brogues, and your competition is wearing a pair of black, basic tie-up, Oxfords or whatever it may be. I mean, there is a big difference. And, the guy that has put the effort, the attention into his shoes, I'm telling you, it makes a big difference, because a lot of the people you're going to be doing business with are going to pay attention, and they are going to notice. And once again, once you start that climb up the economic scale, it becomes even more important. And so, the little things like watches, because if somebody that you're talking to is into watches, they're going to notice if A, you're wearing a watch, B, what type of watch that you're wearing. And I recommend that everybody wear a watch, just because, for nothing else, even though you have your cell phone, it sends a message to people that you are responsible. And in business, it is critical.
And are we talking Seamasters? Are we talking Rolexes? Or is something more subtle? Because like Citizen do really nice watches and say £200 or £300. Is that good enough, or is a watch worth the investment? And I'm going to prerequisite this in that you can buy most of these expensive watches secondhand and sell them 10 years later for the same price. So yes, with that context in the back of the question, is it worth that investment?
Here's the thing, I say that a $300 watch, a $200 watch, there are some incredible lower price point watches out there. And I think the main takeaway is wear something. If your budget only affords you a $50 watch, go with something that is clean, classic, even a Timex Weekender. They make a really beautiful watch, and you can have fun with the different straps and really just play that up. But in terms of some of the nicer watches, people that are watch guys notice watches. And so I personally feel like watches are an investment and something that you might not necessarily gain value, but you're not necessarily going to lose money. And it's always an asset that you can pretty much sell if you need to, if you fall into hard times. But yes, you're talking to me. I am a watch guy. I think. And
what are you wearing now?
This is the Rolex GMT Master Blackface, but I also have the white-faced Daytona and the Milgauss. So I am a watch guy, though. And so I also have an Oris. I've got an Omega. I'm into watches. And so it's an addiction and a bug that I was bit by, apparently. So.
And you alluded to this before, Aaron, and I want to bring it back up because I think this is going to be important. When you are dealing with people, as you described, I think in your words, up the economic ladder. So for us as sales professionals in the B2B world, it's quite likely that we're going to be brushing shoulders with the C-suite, and depending on what size companies you're selling to, they in themselves could be millionaires. So there is a physical difference between the perhaps the watches and clothes that a CEO, CFO is going to wear just by the shops that they're naturally going to go into. No snobbery, nothing like that. But is that, and I'm saying this as if it's a fact, do you see that in the work that you do and there's people that you interact with, that there is, as you go up that food chain, they are spending more money on these kind of things? And so if they're spending money on it, they're likely to be more educated on it.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, the short answer is yes. And yeah, I see it every day. It's something where you can judge. I mean, yeah, the people that I interact with, even whether or not it's bloggers or YouTubers, as they start to climb up that success ladder, their taste and their ability to purchase things of higher quality increases. And so, when my finances were such that I could only afford a $100 suit, I made the most of what I could do. But as things have changed, I have developed a taste for some of the nicer things. But that being said, it's all relative. And my friend just bought a $100,000 car. Nice. I would never in a million years. Oh, it's a Porsche 911 Carrera.
Nice.
It's like actually like $110,000. And it's a beautiful car. But for me, it's just not something that I place a lot of value on. And so I place more value on watches and shoes. And so I pick and choose where I spend my money, and all of your audience will do the same, obviously. And so, as your purchasing ability goes up, a lot of times your shopping and the places that you're actually buying does increase a bit.
And I want to wrap up this part of the show with a question on individuality and how that has or doesn't have a place in the world of business. So you started the show by explaining that it's better to not be taking perhaps massive risks and wearing super on-trend, perhaps fashionable, super thin lapels. I think lapels with two colors were in fashion a little while ago. And it goes for haircuts and that as well. If you're dealing with a 70-year-old CEO, he probably doesn't want you to come in with buzz shaved down the sides and your hair flopped over. Perhaps a more conservative look would be more approachable to him. But is there room for individuality within the world of business and clothing and dress and style? And other than a watch, which I think we just covered, what else can we tweak to be more us?
You could, absolutely. There is absolutely room for individuality. The shoes that you select, the belt that you select, the suit. You can stylize the individual pieces as long as they're not too far outside of generally conservative, acceptable standards. Haircut, facial hair, glasses. All of these things do add up. And so, but that being said, you can absolutely play around and have fun with different frames. Haircut, I would go a bit more conservative. Facial hair, the big beard, probably not. Unless
well,
you're
I know I've told this story before, but the last company I was with, a big endoscopy company, it's all, even though it shouldn't have been clearly through the laws and legislation that are in place, it was all male sales force. And that was it was like an alpha-led company, and we're all in there to hustle and work crazy hours and then go just get wrecked. And that was the culture. It wasn't a perfect fit for me, but I was always top 10% there. I always did well. I had probably about this much facial hair, but I'd shaved it around the back, shaved down the sides, and it looked smart. And the ruckus that this caused in this company, and this is say 2 years ago, at the probably a year after facial hair was becoming popular and fashionable, I got so many of the reps coming up to me and saying, "Oh, you're gonna get told off, Will," and all this going on, and it came to a climax on a national sales meeting. The whole team's there. The CEO is at the bar. I get dragged over, and one of the lads tries to basically not maliciously, but jokingly tries to make me look silly in front of the CEO. Comes over, what do you think of Will's beard? And the CEO has had a couple of pints at this point. Clearly he's a professional and he's conscious to be above a lot of this and the shenanigans that was going on that night. And he just turned around and said, "Yeah, it looks fine." And it's a shock to the 10 people that are now surrounding me, waiting for me to get an absolute rollicking. And he just turned around and said, "It's fine," and turned back, had a sip of his pint, turned back again, and just came out with, "Well, he's doing really well. He's selling more. He's higher up on his target than," and you pointed out a couple of the lads. And that was it, shell-shocked. Next day, I'm not even kidding. So we had that was the night before the big meeting. The next day, everyone's got 5 o'clock shadow. Everyone's trying to shave around here so they can grow their own beard. And it was just a weird scenario. And I like this conversation that we've had, Aaron, and I enjoy the input that you've given us. And I think it's really important that you've got to push back, I think, a little bit in 2016 at the corporate suited and booted, very strict and conservative. And obviously there's a line there that you don't want to lose money and deals over it. But I think that being yourself, especially in sales, and avoiding these slide PowerPoint presentations where you're stood up and you're in your little corporate voice, and it all gets a bit weird. And I think there's real value, and I think you can add real value to your customers by being yourself and perhaps having a beard, perhaps having a nice watch and being able to talk about it. And the other things we talked about are opportunities just to build rapport and build deeper relationships with customers. And with that, Aaron, I've got a couple of questions to ask everyone that comes on the show. I know you're not an out sales professional, but clearly everyone has to sell, so you will have some insights to these. The first one.
I am a sales machine on YouTube and my social media. I mean, that's how I make the majority of my money, is by selling products and brands to an audience. And so. And
do you associate yourself with that word, or do you see it as a negative word that you're trying to go around?
No, I am very proud that I am one of the best salespeople that you'll ever meet, because the way that I sell has been developed over the course of the past 8 years. And I have an uncanny ability to sell without being salesy, because I give enough value and I'm creative enough in my storytelling and my application of whatever my promotional, job is for the specific video. I am a fantastic salesperson. And just to give you an idea, we talk about and this is, I don't care if you guys know this stuff. I did a video recently for a suit company in Chino. They're a custom suit company. It was through an agency, and it was trackable. They had a link. And so with YouTube, because I operate in that world, it's very easy to see if you're converting, because these companies will offer some type of incentive. But in 30 days, I sold $500,000 worth of suits. And so for this company and for the agency that hired me, it was unheard of. Nobody's ever done that. Nobody would believe me if, and so, no, I'm a very, very good salesman, and I love the fact that I'm a good salesman. I love selling.
You've just got another 10,000 subscribers now by associating yourself in that manner, because there's a lot of people in your position that would perhaps call themselves and identify with being a content marketer or essentially anything other than a salesperson, when you, as you're talking about, you are selling. And I've got these questions I'm going to ask you in a second, but you piqued my interest here now. I'm conscious of time, so I won't dive too deeply into it. You have the opportunity to represent a company and create content for them. However it happens, it doesn't really matter. A contract comes in, an offer comes in. What is your process to build that asset that sells? And clearly this is going to be useful for everyone listening moving forward, because you doing these videos, it's massively scalable as well. So I don't think it's going to work for every B2B salesperson to jump on YouTube and do something similar, but there will be elements of it which will be useful to build personal branding and rapport for sure.
Yeah, my process is pretty simple. First, I'm very selective with the products that I will promote. I get approached 10 times for every one product that I actually promote. Process is, I get the product, and the first thing I need to think about is, what will be a good title for a video? What will be that hook? Why will people want it? Because at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. The more people that watch the video, the higher chance or likelihood there's going to be a sale as a result. After that, then I start scripting. All of my videos are scripted. I get the talking points from the company. They give me 3 talking points and what the key messaging is. One of the things that people do that is wrong is they have too many messages. Do this, and then go here, and then do this. Give them one thing to do. Have one reason for them to go and click that link and stay on that message. At that point, then, it's about writing a story that I'm telling to my friend and apply whatever product I'm actually promoting into a educational, but at the same time entertaining type of video that still features their products. And one thing that I do not do is I do not shy away from letting people know that this is a promotion. Because the one thing that people will shy away from, especially in YouTube and as a content creator, is if they feel that you've lied to them. And so never falling into the trap of, I didn't get paid, or I didn't do this, or it's not this. Let them know. Then there are ways to let people know that aren't salesy and sound very promotional. And then I just write, film, and make magic happen.
I love it. This element and this concept of storytelling, I think, is going to become increasingly important for salespeople. As you talked about, you can't just blah, 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 this is my product, features and benefits. No one cares. No one wants to hear it. But when you wrap it up in a story and you can grab someone's attention with that, Obviously, clearly, it's extremely powerful. And one final question on this: which is more important to you, someone's attention or the fact that you've entertained them? Which do you value more?
The entertainment. For me, it's entertainment. I enjoy entertaining people. That's why I am kind of a bit of a personality on YouTube, and I enjoy entertaining. And at the end of the day, if you can entertain somebody for 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and they enjoy what they saw, then they'll come back for more. And so for me, it's about entertainment.
I did not know which way you were going to go then, and I think most of the audience would have assumed that attention would have been the key, because in the world of sales, that seems to be the biggest, hottest topic at the moment. And I hate, and I've not done a show in it for a while, but I hate the conversations of email headlines and cold call and break through the noise and all these kind of things. And you have probably just, and with your success on YouTube, you've probably just summed it up better than most of the sales experts that we have on the show of, if you can entertain someone, and clearly then you've got the opportunity to storytell, the attention just comes. And I love that. And Aaron, these couple of questions I've got to ask you. First one, who do you think is the world's greatest salesperson?
The greatest salesperson? I would say, can I say a company?
Yeah, of course.
Can a company? I would say Apple is the greatest salesperson / company in the world, because they have done such a good job by creating a narrative around a feeling and around a culture as opposed to a specific product. And so I think they've done it. And I'm not an Apple guy, and I use Android, and I don't have a Mac computer, but I can appreciate that their messaging is contradictory to a salesy message. And it just basically talks about what they do, why they do it, and hey, by the way, these are great products. And they've done such a great job. And so I would say Apple is the best salesperson I've ever seen.
Nice. Okay, next one. And I want you to go deeper.
Has anybody ever said that before, or is that...
The most cliche common answer is Steve Jobs, but no one's used Apple as the storytelling machine that they are. Most people tend to be into Steve Jobs from his presentations. So yeah,
sorry, I didn't know that I was going down the same road.
No, you took a different route. It's good. Okay, next one. And I want you to go deeper with this, other than, seeing my customers that are happy or anything along those lines. What motivates you to close more deals?
It's really freedom. And what I mean by that is I remember there was a point at which I have struggled my entire life financially, from growing up incredibly poor on government assistance to, odd job to odd job going through college. I mean, I've always been super poor and broke. And so there was a point at which I didn't think about how I was going to pay my bills this month. And that was the most liberating and amazing thing that had ever happened to me, because all of a sudden, when you are consumed by the pressure of your basic needs, it stifles so much creativity and just the ability to think. And so once that was taken away, and it allowed me to be more creative. And so now I see the passion for doing these promotions and driving sales and closing more deals as an extension of my freedom. And so that is why.
Amazing. Very candid. I appreciate that. Final one from me. If you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give him to help him become better at sales?
Don't be afraid of technology. I am, to this day, still a little bit apprehensive when it comes to learning new technologies. And so for me, I would be better at sales if I understood more applications or how the technology interacts with each other. And so I would have embraced that a lot more, a lot earlier. I mean, I still get a little bit weary and nervous when I get a new cell phone, that it's going to not work and I'm not going to be able to figure it out. And so I would embrace technology at a younger age, and that's what I would have changed.
Amazing stuff. I appreciate that. And Aaron, I want you to tell us a little bit about...
What's yours? What would you do?
If I go back in time, I would do two things. I would save more money. I would invest it. I would also hustle harder. When I worked in the medical device sales, I was always, not top 1-2%. I was always top 10%. And a lot of it came naturally. I'm good at chatting to people. I'm good at building rapport, especially in person. I'm quite empathetic. So I was always pitched internally as the guy that kind of everyone just gets on with and you can go for a drink with and then go mountain biking or whatever at the weekend. And dealing with surgeons, I was very capable of dealing with these big, it's a stereotype, unfortunately it's true, these big gorilla rugby playing alpha blokes that were always a bit too hairy. And I was very good at just not dealing and not getting sucked into their bullshit and then getting massive respect from them and just becoming friends with them, going drinking, golfing, whatever at the weekend on the back of that. So I always did pretty good, but not exceptional. So, and then to answer your question, I would hustle harder because right now we're doing a video podcast every single day. I'm editing them all. Of course, I'm doing the review, the interviews themselves. I'm pulling out all the video content. We're reaching, say, 50 to 100,000 people a day through all the social media posts that we're doing. The podcasts themselves are getting, say, 10, 20,000 downloads per episode, depending on the content that we're putting out there. And I know that the effort that I'm putting in now and the reach that I have now, and if I'd have done this in medical device sales and perhaps become a mini celebrity within the industry, become an expert in endoscopy through channels such as YouTube, through having a podcast and interviewing surgeons or something of that nature, which again allows me to reach to people like yourself, Aaron, who are out of my pay grade socially with the amount of YouTube followers and the subscribers that you have. Doing that in sales, I wouldn't be doing this now, and I'd be stinking rich. And I would, going back to the original point, I'd have invested in
2 watches.
Yeah, I just have an armful of gold Rolexes, and I'd be sat on my Rolex sponsored boat having this conversation with you. But no, in all serious, just the amount of hustle. And I think if I look back in 10 years' time to this point, I'll probably still say the same thing. I think it might shift from the amount of hours to building a team and valuing my time further. But yeah, sorry, I've gone on a bit of a rant there. But
oh, hey, I like it. I like listening.
But
that's great stuff.
That's what I would tell myself. And with that, Aaron, to wrap up the show, mate,
sure.
It probably doesn't need much of an introduction to our audience, but I want you to tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel, the content that goes on there, and how we can find out more about it.
Yeah. My content, when I first started 8 years ago on YouTube, it was focused exclusively on men's style and helping guys dress better. And what I found, the type of advice that I give is not what you're going to find in GQ magazine or on the sidewalks of Savile Row. It's just basic advice for guys to look better and to feel more confident. And when I really analyzed what I enjoyed doing and what I was doing just as a whole, it really boiled down to confidence. And I started talking more about grooming, about fitness, about relationship, about social issues, and really just being a men's lifestyle type, almost like a video magazine. And so now, if it doesn't matter what the topic is, I'll talk about it if it's something that I feel would benefit the confidence and just the fulfillment that a guy has in life. And so that's really the direction that it's taken. To find me, just go to YouTube and type in Alpha M as in male, or man as in salesman, and you'll find me.
Amazing stuff. I will link to a couple of videos that I found really fascinating and useful in the show notes to this episode over at salesman.red. And with that, Aaron, genuinely, I want to appreciate your time. I want to appreciate your energy on the show as well today. And I want to thank you for joining us on the Salesman Podcast.
Will, thanks for having me.
And there we have it. Thank you, Aaron, for coming on the show. I massively appreciate it. Thank you, Sales Nation, as always, for tuning in. I appreciate your time and your attention. And with that all said, I'll speak with you all again on tomorrow's episode.